All right, episode 2. We're doing this again.
Yes, we are.
Thank you for everyone for the feedback for episode 1 of How We See It. That's why we're doing episode 2.
Yeah, apparently people like it.
Apparently so. But yeah, based upon all the reviews, the feedback, the downloads, and everything, I'm just completely humbled, and we'll keep it moving quick because Rocco's a busy man.
No, man, I have always time for this.
I appreciate it. Okay, so since we've convened last time, gas prices are now up to $4.71 a gallon.
Yeah, they are.
$4.71 a gallon is the new national average.
Yep.
Which is mind-numbing to me.
It's completely insane.
Yeah, and again, we're not economists,
right?
You know, and he's got a lot of paper, makes him qualified to speak intelligently. I have no paper, so this conversation is on this end of the table.
Paper in front of you, man.
On this end, yeah, I got this paper from for this conversation purposes. All the intellectual conversation will be happening on that side of the table, but as just a Joe consumer out there. A real estate agent driving a lot and so forth. I'm feeling the pinch.
Yeah.
It's not affecting my lifestyle, and, you know, knock on wood, thankfully for my clients, in a way, in my prior life, it won't affect my lifestyle, I don't think, but it's not pretty. I don't like it at all.
No, not
and
at all.
Again, I don't feel egreged. I just feel it's just so dumb when we have the resources here. And again, I'm not in that sphere. Maybe the oil companies are sitting on their hands, and maybe opening up drilling might not help. Maybe not immediately, but the whole philosophy of not becoming energy independent is now starting to get at my craw. It's bothering me now. The more I think about it, it's like having all this food in your house.
Yeah.
But you're starving and your kids are starving, and instead of eating that food, you're going down to the corner and you're begging with a bag to feed my children.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a crazy analogy, but that's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah, or it's like you just go grocery shopping, and then you decide, you know, I'm going to go out and eat and spend way more money than I need to.
That's a more rational comparison, I suppose. But yeah, but Americans do that.
Well, right. But the problem is, again, like, I agree, like, we should figure out how to become energy independent. Now, look, I'm not an economist and I'm not an energy expert. I just know something's not right. When it costs the amount of money it does to fill up a tank of gas in one's vehicle, and 2 years ago, it was about a third of what it is. Explain to me, and no one can explain to me a good reason as to why. Other than we have a different administration in the White House. And this is not meant to bash one administration or the other, but that's the only variable, other than that has really changed. The moment that administration took over, prices went up. Now, things are going on in the world, right? Obviously. But we have the ability in this country to truly be energy independent. And yet we're not taking advantage of it. We're too worried about buying oil from other countries.
Right, and that's to feed, obviously, an agenda, a green agenda, and again, it's just.
But the green agenda. So again, explain that. No one can ever really articulate it in a way that the average American can understand.
Well, of course.
And it's just we keep talking about this green agenda. So what does that mean? We're all supposed to buy electric cars. Well, okay, who can afford an electric car now? With inflation the way it is, gas prices the way it are. Now you're saying, well, I mean, what was the one? The old press secretary, like, she said, well, just go out and buy a Tesla, go out and buy an electric car. Like, if you can't pay, like, that's the most, you know.
Well, it's actually insulting.
It's an insulting comment. That's the word I was looking for.
To the citizen, it's definitely insulting. You're going to raise my fucking gas prices that far, right? And you're telling me
prices on everything else is going up.
Exactly.
And now I should go buy an electric car just so you feel better. Like, no, that's not how it fucking works.
But it goes to that big, broader picture of conditioning the public to do things they want them to do.
Correct.
And it's, you know, not that it happens overnight, but it's a slow condition. It's a slow massage, right?
Look at Elon Musk, right? He's, you know, Tesla. Like, he's the CEO of Tesla, created Tesla. Yet he's the one saying we should be energy independent. Why are we not using our own oil here?
It's a national security issue.
Correct.
Any way you look at it.
Absolutely.
Even someone like myself can tell that it's a national security issue.
Absolutely.
Right.
When we're reliant on foreign energy to run our country and the citizens of our country.
And look at the foreign countries we're getting them from, generally.
Like, if you can't see that as a problem, I don't know how to help you.
Yeah.
And this is not a political left or right, red or blue issue. We live in a country where we should put America first. Plain and simple. We'll get to that later and some other stuff. but it should be America first. And why are we not doing that? Why are we constantly going to other countries to feed our energy habit when we have it right here?
Well, let's be very clear too. At least I will be clear in how I believe the green movement is complex. There's a lot of different things to it. And it's evolved over decades, and I think I'm going to butcher this word because I'm sitting with an attorney. Altruistic. The altruistic viewpoint of this, I think, goes back to the ecology movement when I was a very young child. I think there was actually some good things going on because I'm pretty sure there was a lot of companies at that time really abusing the shit out of our natural resources and so forth. I'm talking the 60s. Okay. And I think that we've made, I think a lot of strides have been made to be greener. But I think the modern day green energy movement is rooted on simply just a transfer of money, because the idea is to move away from existing fossil fuels and so forth, that industry, and put that money into new industries under the guise that it's an absolute benefit to the planet.
Correct.
That's been proven not always to be accurate.
Right. Correct. That's exactly right. So it is a transfer of wealth from one industry to another. And again, there probably are benefits to it. I'm not saying there isn't a benefit. However, let's call it for what it is. Like, that's what's happening. Because again, if you listen to these politicians who push the new Green Deal or the green agenda, they're very good at making it sound really good, but not giving it substance. Like, I mean, there's really no substance to it. And that's the frustration. Like, can't we all just try and figure out how to solve this problem? It doesn't seem like it should be this difficult, that we are so diametrically opposed.
But it's because the solution, Rocco, doesn't lie in the absolutes. It relies in compromise and being pragmatic in your thought process.
That's exactly right.
Right?
And that's the problem.
Yeah. We can have... I can't predict the future. We can strive for a greener future.
Sure.
But we don't have to destroy our economy to do it now and cause pain to the unwashed masses.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard people, and people in my sphere have said, well, I just want to leave the planet better for my kids. Okay, well, what does that mean? Explain to me what you mean by that. Because that's a great talking point, and it makes you sound like you care. But tell me exactly what that means. What do you want the planet to do to make it better for your kids 30 years from now? What are you doing right now today that's going to impact your kids 30 years from now? The exact things. No one can articulate it. They love the talking point.
Of course not.
I want to leave the planet better for my kids. Well, who the fuck doesn't? Like, I want to leave my kids in a shittier place. My goal as a parent is to. I mean, am I right? I mean, it's a common sense thing.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
But no one. But they love to say it. But when you really dig down, well, articulate actual
talking
things.
Point.
Right.
It's a slogan.
Right. And that's the problem. And that's what we've latched onto in America. We have these
because it's easy.
Back to our always discussion.
Yeah, there's no complex thinking.
Exactly. That's really what it boils down to.
I mean, that's why we're doing this stuff.
It's a good talking point. Let's just say that.
Oh yeah, 100%. Another little tidbit: new car sales are down.
Yeah,
they're down. No one's talking about that because remember how crazy they were during COVID?
Insane.
A lot of free money running around, and I guess there was a shortage, and there still is a shortage because of the chips and all that stuff.
Processors. Yep,
I get it, but new car sales are down, and supposedly, because smarter minds than myself that work in this field have not declared yet that we're in a quote-unquote recession, but they are predicting that if we get into that recession, they expect a nosedive in new car sales.
Yeah.
Regardless of the supply chain issues. The irony will be that'll be resolved, right? There'll be plenty of cars, and then there will be no one to buy them.
Correct. That's exactly right.
That's what they're predicting.
Well, and I think that's a pretty fair prediction because who wants to buy a car now when it costs $100 to fill up the tank? I mean, think about it. I mean, that's really what you look at. Like, I look at my car, an SUV, when I bought it in November of 2020, $43 to fill up the car. Filled it up last week, $128.
It's insane.
So that's 3x, almost 3x in less than 2 years.
Right.
So who is going to go out and buy it? And you're probably seeing the new car sales slump in the middle market cars, not the luxury automobiles, right? Because people are always going to buy those regardless, because the gas prices don't necessarily impact those people the way it does to the general middle income family.
Correct.
Now you're going to see that plummet, because why would I go out and buy a new car, take on a car payment, and now have to put more money into the gas pump
100%.
To fuel the car? I'm just going to deal with what I have.
Well, the other thing too, we're going to talk about the war in a second, or a couple of minutes from now we'll probably get to it, but the war is a component of this recent spike, but the gas prices were already rising before the war.
Yes.
It's a philosophy by the new administration, which is not new anymore. They're 2 years in. So it's the philosophy of the current administration that they literally want to wipe out the oil industry as we know it. Well, that's a great long-term plan, and if you can strategically show the public a better way, go for it. But you can't do it overnight and call it luck or unluck. He did this, and a war started. So now we have double jeopardy in regards to these prices. There is a lack of flexibility in this current administration in regards to pivoting at any point in time on things that obviously are not working. Statistically showing it's not working. There's no willingness to turn. And I have to say, without getting too particular about the president, I find it amazing that regardless of whether you enjoyed Barack Obama's term or you did not, President Biden was there for 8 years.
Yeah.
A younger version of himself, I'm guessing more cognitively with it, was there for 8 years. There was levels of compromise in some things in that administration. Things did get done. It was not as caustic as it is now. It was more caustic than the Clinton era.
Sure.
Right? So I think that was a great area to show compromise, to see how things can work. But was President Biden not paying attention to those 8 years he was vice president as to how the operation's supposed to kind of work, that both houses somewhat finding some kind of common ground? Because right now, this rigidity is not working. It's not working.
And look, I think, again, this president was not a vote for him, a vote against someone else. And at a certain point in time, as an administration, you can't keep blaming the prior administration. At a certain point in time, it becomes your problem. That would be like me, taking on a job and 2 years in saying, well, it was a former guy's problem. He caused all these problems. I'm just still sorting through the mess. No, when do I become accountable?
Yeah.
Like, I should become accountable day one. When I take the job, whatever that job is, be it the president, the CEO, or anything in between, the moment I step in the shoes, I own it. Right. I'm accountable. The buck starts and stops with me. This administration hasn't done that yet. Now the past administration, they did a lot of blaming too. I'm gonna talk to both sides of that. They did a lot of blaming too. Right. But at a certain point in time, we're 2 years in. Nothing you've done has worked. Tell me, and I've asked people, articulate one thing that has happened that has went really well in the past 2 years. How is the country better off than it was 2 years ago? Investments are down, the stock market's down, crypto got crushed, inflation's up, gas prices are up, people are unemployment. They're saying, well, unemployment's down. Okay, but you're not looking at the real numbers. It's a whole different topic.
Take a dive into those numbers and see what kinds of jobs are actually been created.
Correct. I don't know what people are doing. We've been trying to hire someone. It's almost impossible. I don't know what people are doing, why they're not seeking work, or why they're just not applying for jobs. The country's in a worse position than it was 2 years ago. I truly believe it. And that's not a political...
For most Americans.
For most Americans. It's not a political statement. It's just how I observe the world.
So one thing that I read this week, too, which I thought was fascinating that I had never thought of, but apparently China is slowly coming out of this COVID lockdown in a big way. And those in that oil industry just simply think demand's going to increase. World demand's going to increase, which is going to put even more pressure on the current supply. Yeah,
because China will eat up that supply. I believe that. And it's like the perfect storm, right? They're coming out of lockdown right when things are really starting to feel the pressure here. when inflation's creeping up, interest rates are creeping up.
The timing's very suspect.
It's very suspect.
Yeah.
And 6 months from now, we're going to feel pain that we can't even comprehend right now. I think the average American will, because inflation is going to keep going up. Interest rates, you're seeing it in the industry you're in, right? Real estate.
No doubt.
Rates are going up, and that 1% makes a big difference.
Huge difference.
Huge difference. That makes something affordable or not.
Yeah, for many people, it makes a house a yes or a no.
Yes,
especially
exactly.
your first-time home buyers.
Absolutely correct.
What do you think about a time frame that Americans are going to start to cut consumption? We can talk about oil consumption, gas. We kind of touched on it briefly, but I mean, are we going to see? Because when I was very young, I went through the 70s and the gas crisis. I remember the evens. You know, if you had an even, oh my gosh, I think they went by inspection sticker on your car. I don't think it was license plate. Even month you could go in this day. Well, it was that rationing was a thing.
Okay.
So I remember that, and I remember, coming from a very humble background, my parents, eking out every mile they could get. But we could be headed in that regards. If you start telling me that gas is going to be $8-9 a gallon, that's going to make a normal quote unquote lifestyle for pretty much most Americans not tenable without change.
I don't think Americans know how to change. I think we love consumption too much.
We love our cars.
And we're too comfortable with consumer debt. It's very easy to just take on consumer debt to finance a lifestyle. Because cutting consumption takes some financial foresight, right? You got to say, I'm cutting consumption because of this. And it's dealing with financial, right? It's I have to cut needless driving because gas prices are X, and if I do that, I can save X amount of money. I have to not buy these things because they're discretionary things that I don't necessarily need. That'll save me X. I truly believe Americans just like to consume. Look how much the world has changed in the past 10 years, how much more stuff there is to do and buy, and how our attention spans have decreased. So we need more new things. We need them newer, quicker. We use them for less amount of time. We consume a lot more. I think it's almost an impossibility for the average American to lower consumption because it's too easy to get money, debt, to fund that consumption.
What if that turns?
Do you think credit card companies are going to change? You think they're going to stop giving out credit cards to people who shouldn't have credit cards?
I don't know.
I don't see that happening. I mean, I watch videos all the time of like real estate investors and people that are flipping houses. Oh, I just went and applied for 15 credit cards. I have $75,000 in open credit lines.
I see it.
So it's these people that aren't employed. They're house flippers. They don't have income to show. Can go get $75,000 worth of consumer credit that they can take as cash advances to fund flip. Now they're doing it for the right reason, right? They've done the math. They know how to manipulate that system. Take that same logic. The average American says, well, gas is costing me X amount of money. Well, if I just put it on a credit card, I can defer it, and I can pay the minimum payment. And this $1,000 of money I spent in gas this month, I only got to pay $30 next month.
Right.
But then that $1,000 turns into $10,000.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't see it happening.
That should be interesting to watch if things.
It's going to be completely interesting.
If we get to the $8-9 a gallon price threshold.
I don't think we'll see that.
You don't?
In this area.
You don't think?
I
You realize that diesel right now is, I've seen it.
There were $6.
Yeah, $6.25. I've seen it this morning.
I think
which is insane.
True. I think in this area, so the Pittsburgh area, right? I think the most we'll see. I don't think for unleaded, even premium. I don't think we'll cross $6.25. I don't think we'll get over that.
I hope you're right.
I mean, $8 a gallon. I mean, that's absolute insanity. Considering that's almost 5x of where it was 2 years ago.
100%. So inflation is at 8.3, down slightly from 8.5. But the fact that we're talking about 8% inflation,
yes,
I don't give a shit if the decimal point's 35790. It's 8%.
Yeah, and that's the average across the board. Some categories are higher.
No doubt.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. How many months do you think it is before the average consumer starts to feel I guess initially the sticker shock that you see is with us now. right? And we that's still kind of in our consciousness. Is that going to normalize? Americans just going to get beaten down and just accept it? Or when do you think it really starts to have a devastating effect? And I mean devastating, like, take case in point, we'll bring the baby food shortage in here. Other tangible goods that we typically get, shortages coming here, coming there. When do you think, how many months is it going to take at 8% inflation, roughly, before they really start to feel it? I know the consumer thing. We just talked about consumption, but I'm talking about staple items that must be
6 months. I think there's always a 6 month trail.
Okay,
that's how I look at it. Okay, inflation's 8 now. 6 months is when people start to really feel it, and it hurts, right? Because they're still kind of adjusting to it, right? You're kind of like, okay,
you think it's temporary.
Yeah, exactly. People have this, okay, a few months is temporary. Things are going to change. We're going to get past the elections. Things are going to change. 6 months, I think that's when you'll see it. Because again, you go to a grocery store, you go buy consumables. Yeah, you notice prices are going up. When it happens for a 6 month period of time, then you really know, and it really hurts. Because now you're looking back and saying, okay, 6 months ago my grocery bill was $200, then it went to $220, now it's $250, now it's $400, and I'm buying pretty much the same things. And that's just, I'm talking from my own experience, right? Like, I know that when my wife and kids and I go to the grocery store, for most weeks, unless it gets crazy, kind of buy the same staple items, right? 2 years ago, I was probably paying half of what I am now for them.
Yeah.
And it's
painful. It's
very painful. And I'm in a position where it doesn't, I can afford it.
Right.
It doesn't impact me, but that family it does impact. Like, that's going to creep up eventually. Will it curve consumption? Like I said before, I don't think so. Maybe you'll make different choices. I think people are still going to consume. I think it's going to push people into more consumer debt. I think you're going to see people's debt rates go up. I think that's going to have a devastating impact 2 years from now. That's what I think. I think 2 years from now, you're going to have all these people that have a ton of consumer debt.
Yeah.
Will bankruptcies go up? I don't know. There's going to be a whole bunch of collateral damage that happens, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, the grocery prices, that's something that I can honestly say I've never seen this kind of increase in my lifetime. And right now, with a new grandchild in my family sphere, we're trying desperately to find formula, the right color, whatever it is. I'm learning a lot about formula. Yes. And that's been frustrating. And I will tell you, when I step back and I look at that, we are the United States of America. All this country has given to the world, from creativity, from monetarily, from arts, all of it. And you're telling me that in 2022, we are okay with newborns not having enough baby formula. We're obviously okay because not enough pressure has been put on Congress people and have that trickle upwards. We just don't give a fuck because I guess newborns and people are complaining. Here I am complaining about it, but ultimately it must not be resonating that heavily in Congress and in the presidency because nothing is getting done. And we have the power to do a lot in this country on an emergency basis.
Absolutely.
But this hasn't reached an emergency point, which is unbelievable to me.
Yeah, it's completely ass backwards in my opinion.
It's incredible.
Like why? And that's the thing. You can't even get an articulate answer. You can't even get somebody to give you a legitimate answer as to why. Yeah, there was the recall and the one factory shut down, right? Which I think they produced.
If one factory if one manufacturer
that's the
can
problem.
Affect an industry, something's seriously wrong.
And that's the problem. And so but again, so that flies in the face. There's kind of two arguments there, right? How do you prevent that? Do you get more government intervention in industries like that, where governments have to intervene and say, we need to control some of the manufacturing process to make sure this doesn't happen? People on the other side argue, we don't want government in business, right? It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, 100%.
Because how do you prevent that from happening? Well, you have some government intervention.
What about the idea that there are some things that are so important to the lifestyle of the way of life of the American people that maybe our government needs to do some planning? And I don't mean in regards to becoming involved with business, but over time saying maybe we need to have food stored away. Maybe we need to have baby formula stored away. Maybe we need to have oil and gas or gasoline more than our reserve, more as a in case the eventuality that we really need these things.
Yeah.
If we're not paying attention now and fixing it for the future, then shame on us. I mean, I don't find that, in all honesty, Rocco, I wouldn't find that being in direct conflict with government versus business. If the government wants to put reserves away in case of an emergency,
correct. Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
I mean, that's almost like that's almost like a military emergency.
It's like national defense.
National defense.
Yeah.
National defense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that should be looked at. I do have to say I don't think government needs to be involved in private business.
Right.
I think they can subsidize certain things for staples, baby formula.
Yeah.
Medicine,
of course.
Like why aren't we looking at making more medicine? But the whole pharmaceutical industry is a whole other topic. Should the government look at something like that? Absolutely, because
for emergency circumstances,
right? And the problem I have though is we in this country, like, we don't take care of America first.
No, we do not,
and that's the problem.
Pretty obvious.
It's so obvious.
We can't, whether regardless of what side of the fence you're on, that statement alone is undeniable.
Correct.
It's undefendable.
Look how many people die from fentanyl every year, right? Fentanyl, which comes from the southern border.
We know
yet they won't close the southern border.
We know where it's coming from.
Yes, but they won't close the southern border. But that's where majority of fentanyl is coming from.
They've tied for those who don't want to close the southern border, that philosophy has tied the action of not doing it to racism. They've tried to take another angle to combat those who want it shut down, and they've gone right to racism over it, which is just insidious to me. You're saying that our security as a nation, right, done humanitarianly, doing it in a humane way, right? That protection can't happen because if you want that to happen, you're acting in a racial way, which is insane to me. It's not a racial way. It's not a racial issue.
We have a legal process to get into the country. Follow it. Like, that's what we have to do. Like, it's especially when we know things that are happening at the southern border are causing death of American citizens. It's been proven factually this is happening. Why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we? That's an easy an easy problem to solve.
I think those with enough influence to do that have other agendas, and I think that the argument or what they do is they take that issue and they attach insidious things like the racism component or something else to make it as a weapon against those who just simply want secured borders. It just does not. And how long this will fly, I don't know. The public ultimately will change, hopefully, with their vote. Hopefully,
you hope.
But you don't ever know. Okay, moving along. This one's going to get interesting.
Okay.
So sadly, another school shooting, another two mass shootings actually in a short period of time, and of course that leads to gun debate because of course some in our society believe that guns are the reason why people do bad things with guns. So the president comes out and has a primetime speech. It was I think it was June 2nd. Yeah, it's actually yesterday.
Yep.
Talked about stricter gun laws, of course, very predictable, based on the mass shootings in Uvalde and Buffalo.
Yep.
He calls for a reinstitution of an assault weapons ban, I believe. At the bare minimum, I think he wants to raise the age from 18 to 21 to purchase what a quote-unquote assault weapon, which not being a gun enthusiast, I'm not sure I even understand what that classification is. There was a thing about instituting a red flag law to prevent gun sales to those with criminal records. As a lawyer, what's your thoughts on that?
So look, on the gun debate as a whole, let's put a few things aside.
Sure.
So the Second Amendment's the Second Amendment, right? Like I think one of the things Biden said in his speech was the Second Amendment is not an absolute right. Right. Okay, so what is? So what amendment is an absolute? So when you say something like that, then you're saying that no amendment gives you an absolute right. Because how do you pick one over the other? So my freedom of speech and freedom of religion is not absolute. It's conditioned upon certain things. Like, that's bullshit. You can't say that.
It came out of his mouth.
Correct. So do I believe there can be certain laws in place to regulate certain sales of guns or background check? Yeah, I think that's okay to do. I don't think you can't just take away guns. Because in my opinion...
Well, it won't work, even if you tried.
Well, again, and look, what has happened is it breaks my heart. I have kids that age, right? It's a tragedy. But I don't like the fact that anytime something like this happens, we go right to the gun. And we never talk about the individual. Because it's the individual who fires the gun. If a person wants to commit a crime, they're going to commit the crime. Just because you take the gun away doesn't mean they're not going to commit the crime. Look at Chicago. Toughest gun laws in the country. Some of the toughest gun laws. I think I read 40-some shootings over Memorial Day weekend, 9 deaths. How are they getting guns? They have the toughest gun laws in the country. They're criminals. They want to commit a crime. They're going to do it. We need to start looking at the absolute facts of a situation, and not these subjective arguments. Right. The fact is there were 2 mass shootings, which are terrifying and terrible. Right. So what can we do? Okay, instead of let's talk about let's take the guns or let's do this, it's when Kennedy was assassinated. After that we beefed up presidential security. When 9/11 happened, we beefed up security at airports. When a mass shooting happens, why don't we beef up security in schools? Why aren't we doing that? We send money to we sent $40 billion to Ukraine, right? For this war we have no part of.
I think that's
bare minimum.
Yeah, bare minimum.
Yet we have, I think it's over 300,000 unemployed vets who would lay down their life to protect children. Why aren't we using that money to employ these veterans to be security at these schools?
It's a great idea.
To prevent this from happening.
It's a great idea.
Why aren't we doing stuff like that? But instead, we're looking at the politicizing of the issue. Like, let's take away guns. Let's say, define an assault rifle.
I can't.
You know, I was telling you earlier that I watched a video of a guy who was actually very logical. So I'm not a gun owner. I don't own a gun. I don't know much about guns. I just believe in fundamental rights. You know, I'm a constitutionalist. He was using the example, and it made sense to me. Maybe it doesn't other people, but he had I think it was an AR-15. He's like, this is a gun. That's what this is. This is a gun. It's a rifle. Okay. If I take this gun and shoot a bunch of people and assault a bunch of people, it's an assault rifle. Okay. Puts it down, grabs a golf club. This is a golf club. If I take this golf club and go and kill a bunch of people and beat a bunch of people with it, it's now an assault club. That's what we're trying to say here. That they're trying to just say because this gun has been used to do these things, it's an assault rifle. We should ban it. It's only an assault rifle when it's used to assault people. And it's a matter of language, but where do we draw the line? Like, where do we draw that line? Like, how do you say we're going to take this gun and not this gun? Where do we draw this line? Then the whole age debate, like they want to raise it to 20. Okay, but 18-year-olds can go to the military and fight for this country and carry guns and die, put their life on the line, do the most selfless thing you can do. Choose to be in the military to fight for this country and die for this country, carry a gun for this country, but if you want to own one legally, you got to wait till you're 21. Explain that logic. You can't. There's no logic to it. It's rhetoric.
It's definitely rhetoric. It's definitely rhetoric. The illogical portion of the gun debate always to me has been that you want to somehow blame an inanimate object. I have never understood that at all, and I think unfortunately humans can be very stupid, and I think at times we've put laws in effect because pure freedom, 100% freedom in every regards, I don't think the average human can handle it. I hate to say that, but that's unfortunately there are some mechanisms in place where some things are illegal because they're weapons of war. You're not going to drive a tank down the middle of Fifth Avenue, right?
Correct. But every society needs certain levels of rules and guardrails in place.
Guardrails, good way to put it. Yeah.
That's what you need. But again, to your point, you can't blame it. We have to talk about the individuals.
So let's talk about that. So I believe, and I'm not going to say it for the first time here, but I've said that many times on this show, and I've debated and had great conversations with many people who disagree, and I respect their disagreement. But I believe American society, American culture Maybe I can expand it to the world, but I just want to talk about American culture. I think American culture is very, very sick. I mean, not sick in a morbid way. I mean mentally sick. We are not dealing in kindness or anything close to it until we change. And I can't see a pathway to ever happening. So it's all probably wasted breath. But until we change the way we view each other and our world, until we change that as Americans, what it means to be an American, it's not going to get any better. We don't respect human life in this country. We just, we don't have a compelling reason to value human life the way prior generations did. I don't see it. I'm not blaming video games. I'm not blaming movies. I'm just saying all of this is a tapestry that we are raising kids in and letting them go out into the world without the fundamental, rock-solid moral fiber that was more... I think when I say moral, I mean like goodness, not religious bent, but just general kindness and goodness. It's a different kind of society today because the society doesn't value, in my opinion, does not value human life. It starts there. I don't see it, man. I've been passionate in my plea for this. I've had folks in this table tell me I'm wrong, and they've cited areas in history where we had crime in the 20s and all this stuff. But I just see senseless violence, not in video games, not on television. I see it in real life. It's happening at an increasing rate. And I asked a simple question: how is the idea coming to these folks that are doing it?
Yeah. Look, I believe some people are just fundamentally evil. There is evil in the world. I do believe in good versus evil. Right. So there are fundamentally evil people.
Sure.
I think where society has went wrong, and I'll say it's a lot of our generation, right?
No doubt.
We need to be accountable and raise our kids the right way and show them what love is, what kindness is, what respect for another human life is. And I think that got lost somewhere in the generations. I think I was taught that. You were taught that, right? I was taught to value every life. I was taught to treat people with dignity and respect, no matter their station in life. I was taught
fear for my elders and respect for strangers.
Correct.
That's kind of how I was raised. Same here.
Same here. The generations below us, I think, have been taught that, it's the, everyone gets a trophy, you're special, and if the world doesn't tell you you're special, then something's wrong with the world, not you. And so when we start looking at things from that lens, we start putting value of us over everything else.
So it all comes down to that breeds selfishness.
Correct.
Right.
That's exactly right.
It's a mindset of selfish, which plays.
That's what killing is.
Bingo. That falls into the thing about our culture is sick. It's sick. It's sick compared to, and the statistical data will prove it. It's sick compared to prior decades.
Absolutely.
And I don't see a path for getting, when you think of the fact that humans are more confrontational at any point in time. People have a hairline. You're almost afraid to ever even look at a stranger the wrong way at times because you're like, this person might go off on me. Like,
but here's the thing, though. So I disagree with that.
Okay,
because I think we need people. We need more people to stand in the face of that fear and try and embrace other human beings. Like, I believe that. I believe that's part of the problem. What you're not saying you're the problem.
No.
Saying that's part
I might be.
That we live in this state of fear of what could happen. Like, oh, what if this person's angry? Like,
good point.
Why can't we live in where we're like, hey, maybe this person needs someone to smile at them today.
Agreed.
Maybe that's all it takes to stop something like this.
We're together on that philosophy.
And that's where I think we need to get back to that. Like, we need, as human beings, we need to truly look at one another and actually care and just try and put some good in the world. When we live in this state of perpetual fear of what bad thing can happen, eventually bad things happen. It's the recency effect, right? If I start thinking about a new car I want to buy, all I see is that car.
Of course.
I never see it before, but the moment I think I want to buy a black convertible, that's all I see are black convertibles. If all I think about is fear and negative, that's my perception of the world.
100%.
We need to change that.
We do. I think that's a way to change it. But I also think that humans, the other component is that humans are absolutely lazy. We're lazy in self-initiative. We're lazy in thinking. we have a very comfortable society now where everything is laid before us and we're just kind of slowly moving within it. It takes a lot to have intestinal fortitude, to be brave. It also takes a lot to have initiative. As you're trying to hire people right now. I got to tell you, initiative is a thing that will make you want something better and different, but it got to come from within, because it's obvious that it's not happening as an external force.
No, it's not.
It's just not.
No, and to your point, you're right. Like, you know, I believe that people in this country have gotten lazy in thought and in action, right? I think to shift that, we have to find each person, because motivation comes from within. It's not external, right? You can't.
100%.
You got to find it somewhere.
100%.
And people need to learn to start changing their viewpoint on the world and their perception of the world. And all, like they say, everything starts with attitude, right? And in your mind. Like that, I truly believe that can change a lot of things in this world if we all started thinking and acting differently. But it's a fundamental choice we have to make. And that's hard. And people don't want to do it because it takes effort. Also because people don't see the benefit of it.
Yeah.
Because no one's talking about the benefits. We need more leaders to stand up and say, let's stop fighting with one another. Let's stop causing problems and making these things a problem because we keep talking about them. Let's find solutions. Let's work together. Let's show the generations coming up how we can respect one another and actually put this country on the right path. That's what we fucking need.
I would agree with you. Another problem, too, is I think that we don't initiate enough consequence for bad actions.
No, not at all.
Whether it's a severely bad action, like a criminal action, or even even a social reprimand for, bringing, I don't know, I mean, there's no shame. Like, I had this conversation on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, Rocco. Like, where did the concept of shame go? It's obvious based upon the things that I see now that, and probably the trend that we've seen over the last couple of decades, shame is not real prevalent in most people when they get on social media or the internet, or this adulation thing and this look at me thing kind of has not even tempered. It's kind of like overwashed or washed over the concept of shame, and it's everywhere now.
Well, let me ask you, define shame for me from your perspective. So make sure we're understanding
shame.
So I'm understanding the discussion. Because shame can be defined many different ways.
Yeah, it's a. I don't know if human dignity seems to matter. If that's a component of it, like how is that defined? Self dignity, self respect.
So many people aren't bashing them. They don't give a shit.
Embarrassment.
Okay.
Embarrassment to put scorn on their family's name. That used to be a thing.
Yeah,
Like I was taught. Millions of people were taught growing up. You can do a lot of fucked up things, but don't you dare bring shame to this family's name. My grandparents told my parents that. My parents told me that. I thought I instilled that in my kids. I tried. I don't know if I was successful or not, but that was a thing.
Yeah. Well, look, and I'm going to go on a rabbit hole. So look at society right now, right? Look at shameful acts that have turned people into celebrities. I'll give you an example. The Kardashians, right? That all started from one shameful act. That turned them into celebrities, right? No one knew who the fuck they were before that thing happened,
and then they got normalized.
And then it's like, wow, like I don't have to be ashamed of this. This shit can actually make me famous and make me rich. That's where shame went. And I'm not blaming them. I'm saying that part of society that has, glorified these acts have created this mentality in people that there is no shame, because guess what? It might be my break. Someone may see this and think, oh, wow, they're going to be famous. I'm going to pay them a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Like that dignity's gone. If you can look at a family like that truly got famous from a sex tape.
The whole fucking family.
Like that. If you want to trace, now granted, they work. I will give them this.
Oh, they've done a lot with that money,
and now they have built a fucking empire.
But it started from that.
It started from that, and
where the mother sold the daughter sex tape.
Right, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
So if you put that out there and just say, This woman's mother sold their daughter's sex tape for fame and fortune, and it worked. Think about what that does to people that don't have the complexity of thought.
And they aren't the only ones, but that was a big telling moment in society.
The biggest telling moment, because back to your point, most people don't have the complexity of thought. We're not thinking deeply about things. We're not thinking.
We choose not to.
We choose not to.
Right.
We're not thinking consequences. We're not thinking that. We're thinking, mom, daughter, sex tape, sold, money, fame, fortune. Pfft, let's see what I can do. Shame is gone. It's now the what if
I'm going to
potential.
eat a Tide Pod on Instagram.
But I mean, when you break it down to its essence, like that's where it began. Mm-hmm. Maybe there was stuff happening, but that's kind of how I view it.
I can go back. I can, Bill Clinton having his liaison.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
And there's, and it's not about politics in regards to sides. It was an elected official, presidency, doing that in the Oval Office.
Correct.
It was that's where I was shocked as a I guess I would be a 34-year-old person at that time. Because I had a level of reverence toward my elected officials. I knew politicians could be scumbags.
Right.
I knew it. But the office held a certain amount of reverence.
Correct.
Okay?
Yes.
So when I saw that he showed no respect to that office, it was almost like, well, he's showing no respect to the American people because he could get caught there.
Yeah.
Have other presidents done it? Of course.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. I have no proof, but I'm guessing. But he got caught. And whether it was he intentionally got caught, he wasn't intentionally caught, it doesn't matter. He was caught.
Yeah.
And he lied about it and denied it and then had to do mea culpa. Again, it's not a reflection of his entire presidency. I love a lot of the things the man did in working with Gingrich. There was a good amount of stuff that happened there. But that issue made a lot of, and you and I have not talked about this. I have talked about it on another podcast, and I have actually gotten opposite views of what I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
When that happened, Rocco, that made a very difficult decision for a lot of parents in this country who had children that were not quite of the age those parents deemed they were ready to talk about sex.
Yeah, okay.
But all of a sudden now they had to have the oral sex delineation and all that with a 9-year-old daughter because she's hearing it at school and it's on the flipping news. And again, I'm not saying he set morals back in this country, but it was a landmark moment in our 40 or 50-year segment of America that it forced parents, and I think that did have a little bit of dumbing down morality and shame and the rest of it, right? I mean, it's part of the equation.
Absolutely, 100%. There's multiple pieces to it, but I think it all comes down to when you have shit like that happen, where these elected officials and these celebrities kind of get famous and get their celebrity from doing these shameful acts, then the shame goes out the window. It's now a catalyst for something.
But the funny part about it is there's two parts of the component. It's the people perpetrating it are making the decision to do these shameless things.
Sure.
But it's also us willing to ingest it. Like
it's fucking ridiculous.
We have pushed so, how do I say this? We have normalized bad behavior to unbelievable extents where we are now numb to so much stuff that goes on.
Yes, exactly.
Case in point, our next subject, the war. Do you know there's a war going on?
Yeah.
Did you know that Ukraine is still fighting Russia?
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, it'd be hard to really tell because most of the news don't really cover it every day anymore.
Yep.
But nothing's really, Putin's still bombing over there, and
nothing's
the
really
Ukrainians
changed.
are still fighting back, and we've sent them billions of dollars. Yep. So, number one, is the American public still engaged as we were?
No.
Do we still care at all?
I can tell you this.
Should we?
Well, 3 different questions. So, I don't think we care. I think a lot of people in my circle, right? So I know people in my circle that they're politically astute. They pay attention to things going on. No one's talking about the war, other than how it impacts us potentially, like gas prices. That's really it. No one, and most people don't understand why it's happening.
Think about this. Not to interrupt you, but think about this. If the gas prices were not connected to that, let's say we're at $3.25 a gallon right now, which still sucks.
Yeah.
Let's say that's where we were, or $2.78.
Yep.
Would we even care about the war at all? at this point?
I don't
Would it
know.
even be in our consciousness right now?
No,
right?
no, and here's the problem I have with the whole thought of caring about the war, right? Obviously, as human beings, we care when war happens, right? Like there's a
scary shit.
There's a fundamental care for the people of that country. What really bugs me is the people that become what I would call, issue carers. Like, let me put my flag on, my profile picture and
my
support.
flag was on there.
They can't even. Well, but and look, I'm saying this because
I donated to
right,
Ukrainian
which is
because
fine.
it affected me.
Sure, okay.
And it still does, but it's not in my consciousness every day.
Right,
it should be.
Yeah. But why should it be? Why do you say that? Why should it be? How does it impact you?
That's a good question. I don't think it actually. You've turned it around on me, didn't you?
I did. Yes, I'm an interview now.
I'm just stalling for time.
I know.
You knew that too, didn't you? You learned a lot of being on the radio with me, didn't you, Rocco?
Yes.
Yes, indeed. And we're only on episode 2 for this little project. I'm stalling for more time. It didn't affect me day in, day out outside of the gas prices that we're all dealing with, but it affected my sensibilities.
Sure.
And it painfully affected me through watching CNN, Fox, MSNBC, and switching channels for 2 or 3 days.
Sure.
I was not taken out of action and obsessed by it, but I saw enough of it. I saw tears in my wife's eyes. It caused me to well up when I saw this because it was so fucking horrifying. And the thing is, it's still so effing horrifying. But now now I've kind of adjusted.
Yeah.
And that's not good either. Mm-hmm. I guess that's a human component, a human nature thing.
Yeah.
But why should I care? I care because I believe in the human condition.
Sure.
And I don't use the word offend because I don't like the word, but it really hurts my sensibilities as a human to watch that shit.
Okay.
That's where I'm at with it.
So let me challenge you a little bit. I agree. There's a human condition to it. What if you're a person of Russia? What if you're a Russian citizen? How do you feel about the war?
Well, they're not okay. So it depends on if I'm a Russian citizen that's dialed into the internet and I can break through the propaganda, I think I'd be horrified. But if I'm like most Russians who are not getting the more accurate circumstance.
But okay, so what you're saying though, but the words you're saying, you're making the assumption that the information you've received is accurate about the war.
That is a big assumption, but I stand pretty confident that what I'm seeing in a unified front on all of these networks who are diabolically opposed to each other, showing the same footage.
Sure.
I have to believe it's probably what's going on over there.
Okay.
I mean, motives totally could be different.
Sure.
But the actual human death count and the people dying, I have to believe that's real, right?
Death is death.
And that's what I'm offended. I'm not choosing sides. I am choosing sides. I think Putin's a war criminal, no question. I am choosing sides. Let me rephrase that.
Yeah, that's why I asked the question.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's wrong to pick sides.
I don't see anything that would lead me to believe that Ukraine started this.
Okay.
I don't see anything. Now, if I see some other evidence, I'd love to see it, but I don't see that now.
And again, I'm not saying, I'm just playing devil's advocate here because I think it's an important discussion point. Because I think the point I'm trying to make is a lot of times we pick a side based upon what side we're told to pick.
Absolutely.
And in this instance, it was, war is horrible in the citizens of Ukraine. I don't know. I'm not from Ukraine. I don't know anybody from Ukraine. I'm not from Russia. I don't know anybody from Russia.
Right.
I don't know what actually goes on over there. All I know is what the news channels tell me, which are owned by the wealthy oligarchs of this country.
Yes.
So it's what they want us to know. It's the story they want to tell us.
Yeah, it would have to be in lockstep with the government then. All news organizations would have to be in lockstep with the government.
And most of them, there's a whole other topic there's a whole other discussion on that. But what I'm trying to say is I think war is terrible regardless. And you care about the human condition, as do I. I don't ever want to see people die. I don't ever want to see, war is just senseless in my mind. At this stage,
especially in 2022.
Yeah, at this stage in human,
we're still out there with
human
tanks,
existence,
fighting like we did in the 70s.
We should just be able to sort this shit out.
Right.
But again, I don't know enough of the background to intelligently speak on the war one way or the other. Okay. And I feel like there are a lot of people out there that have taken a side.
Well, of course.
And it's like, you don't, I'm not saying you're wrong, but do you actually have the facts? And this comes down to the bigger problem I have with America is we just tend to take things at face value that make us feel like we should and make us feel a certain way. So people think this war in Ukraine, it's terrible. Like, I should feel sorry for the people of Ukraine. It makes me feel good for feeling sorry for them. It makes me feel good for putting the flag on my Facebook profile.
Right.
It makes me feel good for saying I donated $100 to this Ukraine. You don't know where that money's going. You just says Ukraine Relief Fund. You donate it. Hope it goes there. You don't necessarily know.
Oh yeah.
No one's
always
following
the case
the
with all
facts.
charities.
But that's what I'm saying. But it's like, I want people to think. Like, that's what, and I think the war is senseless and it's terrible. And I feel for the people of Ukraine. I do. I 100% do. And this is not meant to be incompassionate.
I understand.
This is merely an exercise in thinking and thought. We are too quick to pick a side and pick a cause without trying to understand what's actually going on.
Well,
there is some shit that has gone on in Ukraine that I've read.
There's no question.
That is not good.
Well, their government is extremely corrupt. The president, Zelensky, only had before the war, only had a 30%, kind of sound like someone we know, right? Only had a 30% approval rating.
Yes.
They have factions in that country. They have a lot of issues.
A lot of the images they used
corrupt
to show that he was on the front lines were from years ago.
Yeah.
They weren't actual images. There were some biolabs over there that were funded by the U.S. There's a lot of things that people aren't looking at.
It's true. I just don't understand the indiscriminate bombing of civilians that went on for so long by Putin. It doesn't make any sense. If there truly was an issue that he needed to go in there and tactically wipe out things, we would have seen that happen. And then I would say, wow, that looks almost justified, right?
I agree
the
with that.
indiscriminate bombing of like residential homes and cities and things, it's easy to pick a side, Rocco, when you see that shit.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing. I'm merely, this is not my position.
I understand.
I'm merely
You're just asking the question.
I'm asking the question because it's, again, you can take the same thing. What about when we bomb Iraq? And there were senseless killings and civilian bombings. We were okay with it.
Oh, go all the way back to when we dropped the H-bomb.
But that's what I'm saying. This is my point. It's like, we're okay with it when it benefits us.
Welcome to war.
We're not okay with it when it, I mean, but again, what I'm trying to say is, okay, we have all these people in this country that may not have any connection to Ukraine are saying, this is terrible, this is terrible, this is wrong, we shouldn't be doing this, Putin shouldn't be doing this. I get it, agree. Yet, when we do it, it's okay. Yeah, we should do it. Like, it's like, okay, so why? Like, what's the justification? Why is it good when we bomb civilians and not go in other countries bomb civilians?
In theory, you're right.
It's not about being right or wrong.
I would think no. Well, I think there is a right or wrong. Killing an innocent life is killing an innocent life.
Correct.
Doesn't matter where it comes from.
Okay.
I just think that I would like to believe that America does not indiscriminately go out and just bomb civilians. I would like to believe we don't. I'm sure through this long swath of 250 some years that we've done some bad shit. There's no doubt in my mind.
Absolutely.
But ultimately, I think that we would like to be on the side of what's being right for humanity as opposed to wrong. And I would hope that we're one of the last defenders of freedom. I would hope.
No,
at least how it's being sold to us, anyways.
I agree, and we should be the defenders of freedom. But my whole I don't even want to say rub because that's the wrong word. People in this country have gotten too quick to just jump on an issue
100%
because they think it makes them feel good when you're not really doing anything else to benefit anybody else other than do what you think makes you look good. Back to your point of shame.
Yeah.
Like, makes you look good on the internet. I support this cause. But do you really understand the cause? Have you actually taken the time to really understand what's going on in those two countries? Because if you have done that and understand the cause and understand what's going on, absolutely. Or just say, it's not about Ukraine, it's about human life.
That's kind of
I'd have more respect for that. People just said, it's not about Ukraine or Russia. It's about the senseless killing of human life.
Which can be lumped into the Ukrainian people.
Sure, but again, there's not a lot of people saying that.
Yeah.
It's more about, I've picked this team.
Yeah, good point. That's a very good point. And they're making a cult hero out of Zelensky, too. And all news stations have done that.
Right, and we don't know what he's doing.
Right.
We just know what they tell us.
And it might turn out that he might be in the end when the history books are written and the investigations are done. It might turn out that he was, but ultimately we're not really sure. We're not there, and that's the thing that I think most Americans don't understand. And I'm glad we're not there. If President Biden has done one thing during his presidency that I will applaud from the top of his building, he has made sure we did not get involved in World War III with a madman.
Absolutely right.
So that's great.
I give him credit for
that.
But
because we're not there militarily, we don't really have eyes on the ground, like real eyes on the ground. We have a lot of eyes over there, surprisingly, but we're not physically there.
Agreed.
So what we know is only what's coming through, third parties.
Media. Yeah.
Into the media. And it's probably third parties there. Different countries, different. And a lot of it's coming from sky observation too. Like having boots on the ground is a totally different ball game.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And I'm not a military strategist. I'm just a guy. It's an observation.
I get it, man.
All right, moving on. Okay, so Turkey changed its name to, I think it's called Turkiye. You familiar with that? This comes into the phrase that if you don't care, neither do I. On to the next one. The Queen had their seven.
Just go back to that for a moment. My brain is still trying to process what was just said. So please fill me in on this tidbit of news.
I don't have a lot of detail in it. I just know that
Let's try and unpack it.
The country of Turkey has changed its name.
Okay.
From Turkey
to Turkey.
I think it's Turkiye.
Why?
I don't have exact reasons, but the gist of it, I believe it's supposed to celebrate other attributes of their country, which all sound like a bunch of bullshit to me. But I think the real reason is because their country, the name is associated with an
animal.
Yeah, I think that's
Gobble,
kind of
gobble.
the reason. I think that's the reason. We think about Thanksgiving dinner and shit, and I think that's why. I'm not saying that's the reason why exactly, but I think that's part of the reason why they made this change.
And hey,
I was just going to say, if you don't care, I don't either.
Yeah, I mean, if it's something they want to do to celebrate their culture, more power to them. I'm not from there. I don't know much about it.
Also,
Okay.
on the random subjects
Yes.
that if you
I
don't
love
care,
random
I don't
subjects.
either. Johnny Depp.
Yes.
Is it Amber Heard? Is that
Amber
her
Heard,
name?
yes.
Okay, so there's they are both countersuing each other.
Yeah.
It's been played out. I have not watched one scintilla of that trial. I have watched like tidbits on the news as I would sit for a 30-minute news thing. I've seen that stuff. I saw there was a turd in the bed. Yeah, I saw that she shit the bed, blamed it on a dog. I got that gist of all that stuff. But I think the reason I want to talk about this is I think it speaks to the larger conversation that it's very possible that maybe slowly the tide might be changing a little bit about I don't know, the way we maybe stereotype celebrity. The way maybe that I think there was an argument to be made about the fact that she didn't get in 2022, where we are in society, Amber Heard did not get the sympathy that she may have gotten a year, 2, 3 years prior.
Yeah.
From the public.
Sure. And she had shitty lawyers, like super shitty lawyers. Watch that trial. Holy shit. Like,
so you think it really came down to, which is what it should come down to.
I mean, yeah, I think one, her story she was full of shit. Like I do
literally.
Boom, didn't mean to do that.
Oh yes,
unintentional.
You served
pun.
that up on a silver platter.
Unintentional pun.
You think that basically the circumstances were that she just had bad attorneys?
I mean, that's a big part of it. Yeah, I mean,
do tell.
I mean, they were just not good. Like at one point they called the wrong expert witness.
How's that possible?
They were not sharp at all. I mean,
is that reflective of her income as opposed to his income in terms of quality of attorney?
Well, I think the attorneys she got were looking to try and become celebrities.
Is that always the case?
Yeah, I feel like it. And I just don't think her case was that good. I think, unfortunately, it is what it is. And it's one of those things where, to your point, the tide is shifting. I believe. Is
a reflection on the Me Too movement?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know. I'm asking a question.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a whole, I mean, really, I think people are starting to wake up to it's not just because of a thing or a classification. Like there's actually got to be substance and facts to what you're saying.
Okay.
And, you can't just say, well, poor me, you know, you should believe me because I'm just me. It's not how it works anymore. I
It
think,
should have never worked that way.
but it did for a while.
There's no doubt. No doubt.
And that's the problem. And look, I get there are certain aspects to society that need fixed, but when you put something in place where it's just like, hey, well, you just believe me because of me, like, how is that fair?
It's not fair. It's never been fair.
But it was phrased in a way. Well, this is the only fair way to do it.
Yeah.
Like this is how it should be. Like, why wouldn't you believe this person? And I think people have just woken up to like, let's talk about actual facts and the actual things that are happening. Let's look at that and make our determination from there.
Facts are not subjective.
Right. Facts are facts.
We created them.
Sure.
We put them in a subjective bowl now, which
we try to.
Insane. Hopefully that will never happen effectively, but people are trying to, for sure.
In all of these different movements and arguments, they selectively pick the facts or the positions that benefit them and forget about the rest. You can't do it that way. You have to look at the whole picture, right? You can't just say this but not this. Well, look at this but not this. Well, no, everything has to be looked at in the situation. All the facts. You can't just say, well, hey, I'm the woman, you should believe me. Like, that's not how it works. Like, give me all the facts and let me make that determination.
Right.
And I think there's this whole other arguments out there that I just think people are starting to get wise to. That's how I see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel a tidal shift in society, and it may be attached with a lot of discontentment with the economy and gas and the cost of living and all this stuff. I just feel like there's a tidal shift. You can call it a political shift. I like to say there's a philosophical shift coming in the country now. I might be wrong.
No, I think
we'll
there
see
is.
how the elections turn out. We'll see beyond the election. We'll just see maneuvers that are made, and you know what's going to change in regards to just the way we view each other and we view enterprise and we view government in general. I think that I'm hoping that there's going to be a philosophical shift where government won't be the answer all to everybody, because the Republicans, as a conservative philosophy supposedly they're supposed to have proven through the last couple of decades they can be big government spenders just as much as the Democrats can be. But I would like to think at some point in time the spending and the cradle to grave mentality really can be pushed back on.
Well, and I just think people have gotten tired. We've gotten tired of being told what to think. And if we don't agree with a certain viewpoint, we're a terrible human being, we're this, we're that. It's like, no. I think people are just tired of it. It's like, I'm going to believe what I believe. You can believe what you believe. That does not make me right or you wrong. It makes us differing opinions.
But that's freedom.
Right.
To give someone the ability to believe what they want.
Correct. Like that, and that's what I think you're starting to see it. Now, not on a grand scale yet, because there are still people that believe the government knows best, the government will protect me, the government this, the government that.
Yeah.
Like, and it's completely, like, I'll give you an example. So my daughters are in a dance recital this weekend, right? We have their dance recital. Okay. It's at the music hall where, you know, in the town where we live. All of a sudden, tomorrow night, we have to wear masks. Okay?
You've got to be kidding me.
No. So this week, they're all practicing there. The performers don't have to wear masks. The parents are there don't have to wear masks. But because there's a performance and because the CDC says if you are in a high transmission area, they recommend masks. And apparently, Allegheny County is in a high transmission area of COVID because you had like 200 and some cases in the past like 7 days. So now we have to sit through 3.5 hours of recitals tomorrow and Sunday wearing a mask because the people just blindly believe that this will protect us. When they're there tonight practicing. No one's wearing a mask. The performers aren't wearing a mask. The kids we should care most about. And now they're saying we have to go. We have to pay. I have to pay to watch my daughter perform, right? Which I already pay all year to do. I have to pay. Whole family's coming, and now I have to wear a mask. Because they're saying we're in a high transmission area because we've had 200 and some cases in Allegheny County in the past 7 days. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, at a certain point in time, we have to draw a line as human beings.
Well, now it's a control issue.
It's a control issue. That's exactly it.
There's no other way to look at it.
It's a control issue.
And it might have always been a control-related issue.
Right.
Or it might have started out in maybe the intentions were all genuine in the beginning.
Sure.
But when certain folks in power, political power, corporate power, realized that that is a form of control that they could use to increase their power, that's what happened. You're seeing it in California now, the same thing. And I that was one of the notes I wanted to write for this, but I did not. But I guess California is going to, or they're thinking about installing a mask mandate, I think in Los Angeles now, if the daily rate gets above 200 or something. And I guess they're right at that threshold now. And the governor's threatening to do this, or the mayor of Los Angeles is threatening to do this.
But here's the thing.
What a fucked up way to, like, rule over your people.
Right.
Like,
and here's
it's
the thing.
insane.
A lot of the tests are home tests. They aren't even really, that aren't even really validated.
Data's always been flawed.
The data's always flawed. And it's like, and here's the problem I have with it. Look, I get, okay, it is what it is. But now you're going to tell people, like this, we just found this out last night. Okay. So now you're going to tell people that come to this recital, not knowing any of this, that they have to wear a mask or they can't come in. So it's going to cause a lot of people to be uncomfortable. There's going to be tension in that room.
Of course.
It's going to make it miserable for all of us. And I'm not going to be able to enjoy watching my two daughters dance because I'm going to, I follow the rules. I'm a person. I will be agreeable in a situation like that because I don't want to upset. I don't want to upset the apple cart. It's my daughter's dance school. I respect certain things.
Yes.
But I know what's going to happen. I saw what happened in the winter when they had their performance there. People were just pissed. They're like, I'm not wearing a fucking mask.
Yeah.
Like, I'm vaccinated, I'm not wearing a mask. Like, fuck you. Then the people have to argue, and then it causes tension in the room, and everybody's unhappy. And then we're going to be in a music hall that's not air conditioned, that's going to be 1,000,000 degrees, and it's going to be a miserable experience. All because people believe the government knows what's best.
No, I think it's just,
and it's completely arbitrary.
A couple people believe that, and those couple people happen to be in control.
Yes, and they're
they
wielding
have the
power
ability to do it.
Correct. And that's what's so frustrating to me is we, as Americans, there is still that segment that just blindly believe. Like, I want to say, tell me the fucking logic. Okay, I can stand outside, not have to wear it. I walk in, wear it, sit down. Once the lights are down, no one's going to have them. They're all going to take their masks off. Like, no one's going to fucking listen. Who's going to come around and watch and tell you, put your mask on, put your mask on? No one's going to do it. So it's like, there's no logic to any of this shit. And you're just putting these rules in place to put rules in place so you can wield power over someone else. And that's the problem I've had with this the whole time. They're arbitrary rules. Like, why 200 and some cases in Allegheny County is a high transmission rate? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, explain that to me.
I would love to know how many cases of the flu have been recorded.
Right. Whole other topic.
And I would go back years prior. I would go from 2010 to 2019. I'd like to know the monthly or daily rate of the flu. And I would look at them and ask them the question, well, we were never masked for the flu.
Correct.
And I'm guessing those cases are well over 200.
Easily. Yeah.
You know?
I mean, easily.
Come on.
And it's just like, it's so frustrating to me. And I want people to just take a step back and use some logic and ask themselves, like, does this make fucking sense? How about we just all start questioning things a little bit more and not taking
mandates? People do what they want. You want to wear a mask, by all means. You wear a mask 24/7, 7 days a week, everywhere you go. I mean, my wife says that she goes on planes and there's still it isn't 50-50. It's not 40-60. She's like 20%, she would guess, are still wearing masks. She goes, and that's great. That's what they want to do.
Exactly. Let them do it. I have no problem with that.
And that's how I feel about life.
Yes.
Live and let live.
Do
man.
you.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right. Last subject. I've never had a conversation like this. The Queen is celebrating her 70th Jubilee. Okay. Should we care? Do you care?
The Queen of what?
The Queen of England. The Queen of jolly old England.
Oh, I will be 100% honest with you. I have no idea what a Jubilee is.
It's just a birthday. No, it's a celebration of how many years, I believe, since the coronation.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is like this is 70 years, and she is, I think she's kind of frail right now. So I think that there was the last part of the celebration was today.
Okay.
And it was at St. Paul's. And she's very religious, and I think she really wanted to be there. But apparently the steps at St. Paul's Cathedral, it's insane. There's no way she could have made it up those stairs, so she's not there.
Okay.
But I guess my question is, being that you didn't know it was a Jubilee, you might be the wrong person to ask, but
Definitely.
do you think Americans care?
No.
Do you think we should care?
Do I think we care? No. It's the first I'm hearing of it. You know, other than, yeah, this is, and I don't know what a Jubilee is.
You don't think that Americans have like this crazy fascination with the
I think
King and Queen of England?
I think there's a small portion of Americans that
You
have.
think it's a small portion?
I don't.
I'm asking your
yeah, no,
opinion.
honestly, no one in my circle has ever talked about the king or queen or the prince with any care. No one has given a shit.
Because I think we've created a celebrity out of that family.
Sure, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I mean, the English press started it, but I think the Americans certainly ran with it for
But
sure.
why should we care?
Well, that's the question I'm asking you. Why should we care? It. So, I'll tell
Does
you.
it impact us?
I'll tell you my thoughts.
Okay.
I think it's a fascinating story. I also think that, to the woman's credit, regardless of what I feel about the institution, which I'll talk about in a second, I think she's a really high quality human being from afar.
Okay.
That's just the impression I get.
Sure.
I'm not living with her. I don't know. I don't understand the purpose of it in the year 2022. I think it's basically just kind of like all pomp and circumstance.
Does she even have any power?
But it gives very little.
Okay.
It gives the English people something to feel good about, and obviously the majority of them do feel good about it because they okay with the institution. And it is, and I'm sure they would take certainly exception to me being so critical about it. But I'm an American who looks at that and I say that's the reason our country was started, to get away from that shit.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Correct.
So it's hard for me to be endearing to the pomp and circumstance, knowing that there is incredible family wealth there. There is. Boy, I'm going to say it. There is privilege over the unwashed masses.
Sure,
it's undeniable.
Undeniable,
right?
Yes.
And this country's done things. The Kennedy family had a level of royalty to them over the years. We've kind of emulated them in some small regards, but I don't see how in the year 2022 it serves any purpose. And again, it's up to the English people. If they're okay putting their tax dollars there, obviously they are. They keep doing it.
Sure.
But it's fascinating to me that this is what we ran from.
Right.
We exist because we didn't want that.
Correct.
But here we are, a good portion of our... You can think about when Princess Diana married Charles, it was 1980, that the amount of American viewers was unbelievable.
But I think there's a reason for that, right? It's the spectacle of a wedding like that. So I don't think it's because of they're enamored by the Princess of Great Britain. I think there's a wedding of such magnitude that I will never have a chance to see in my life. That's how I look at it.
But by spending 3 hours and watching it, you're showing a level of care and interest, and that's my whole question.
No,
should they give a shit?
But I think it's a level of care and interest in something different than you think
historical.
it is. I don't think it's a historical care. I think it's
Curiosity?
I'm never going to see a wedding this big, and I want to watch it because I love weddings, or I think this is going to be such a spectacle of a wedding.
I'm never going to see a gorilla stick a banana up its ass, but I don't seek one out to go watch it. I just know I'm never going to see that.
But let me ask you a question: if something came on your phone right now and said, you know what, tonight at 9:00 on the BBC, we're going to show you a bunch of gorillas sticking bananas up their ass,
I would not.
There may
watch
be
that.
some curious people out there.
There would
that
be.
turn it on, and I think that's the point.
There's no maybe about it,
but that's
there
my
will
point.
be
Like,
some curious
I think
people.
there's a curiosity. I don't. That's just my opinion. I don't believe people are like, oh, this is the princess or this is the queen. I think this is such a spectacle that we don't have in America.
Okay.
I'm curious to see what this is about.
So this is why I have a fundamental problem with it.
Okay.
Again, I'm not militant about it. I really don't give a shit. But I find it ridiculous. I'll put it on that ridiculous shelf over here.
Okay.
We have elected officials. Unfortunately, we almost canonize them. We have religion where we have hierarchies where we kind of canonize those folks. We do that. We shouldn't, but we do. But theoretically, they're basically not better or worse than the average person. We all have the same rights. Not so with the monarchy. That's a different level of privilege and a different level of born into prestige that we don't share with our fellow Americans over here. I don't think it's healthy. If you're telling me that a family living on the rough side of London, squeaking out a meager living, is on par with their rights and their dignity and their being as the queen, as another human being, maybe 3 miles away, I would say you're full of shit.
Okay.
And she was born into that, with certain rights given to her by her government, by her people. I don't get it. I don't.
You're American.
Get it.
It's different. I mean, think about it from that perspective. Like take the American hat off, and just say, okay, what if you are from Great Britain? That's all you've ever known. This is what you're taught from the beginning. This is all you know. This is how the world is from our perspective. So you just have a different lens. Like, you're looking at it from an American.
Oh, I don't want to tear it down. I just don't see any need for it.
Well,
I don't personally want to tear it down.
So
they want it, they can have it.
But people in Great Britain may say, well, I don't understand the need to have a president and a Congress and a House of Representatives and Senate.
They kind of have that
sort of
form of government,
but not necessarily
by the people.
Sure, but there's also a monarch. So they may look at our government and say, well, I don't get that. Like, why do they do that? Like, why is everybody always fighting? And like, why is this and why is that?
Have you ever watched the House of Commons?
Right, but what I'm saying is, I think we're looking at it. I think taking a step back, I get what you're saying. Like, I agree. Like, but I'm an American. Like, I have no idea what they're taught over there and how they're brought up and what they're taught to believe.
Right.
And I think that does play a role in it.
Okay.
I think if you're
tradition,
if you're taught, like, why do I celebrate Christmas? That was a tradition I was taught. Other religions don't. Other people don't. And they may say, well, that's stupid. Why do you do that? I'm like, well, that's what I was taught. That's what I know. That's what I believe. Right? People over there may believe that a monarch is a monarch. That's just some people are born into that rule.
Rule. That's a tough word to use.
Well, I get it, but I'm just saying, I think some people believe that.
Yeah.
That they were born into this ruling party.
Yeah, and I'm all for if that's what the people want, and they obviously do. I guess the majority of them, because she's still there.
Right, that's what I mean.
Then, I'm all for them having that, but I stand back afar.
Yeah, you don't get it.
I think it affects my sensibilities.
Okay.
About equality.
Okay.
In terms of human dignity and inalienable rights.
Okay.
That bothers me.
Okay.
That bothers me. Not privilege in terms of if it was earned money or if someone's born into a wealthy family. I realize everybody's spot in life, we start at different places.
Sure.
And no one, I don't mean equality in terms of outcome. I'm just referring to privilege on the tax dollar. It's just ridiculous to me.
Okay.
I don't get it.
That happens in this country, though.
It does. I don't like it here either.
Right. But so it happens everywhere. It's just
that's a king and a queen when you already have taken their legislative powers away and given that to the public, given that I don't see the need for it. So you're saying it's just pomp and circumstance for a tradition basis, right?
Yeah, but let's flip it. How much power does the president have?
More than I.
Okay, but what I'm saying is so and look how much tax dollars are spent on the president. Right? Yeah. The planes, the staff, everything. So it's kind of, I don't want to say it's the same thing. It's just, it may be couched in a different blanket or in different terms.
The role, how I say this, the role of the president has more impact in this country. It has more impact. I would hope. It would be on par with the prime minister over there.
Okay,
right?
Sure.
So he should be getting the same kind of protection that we give our president. I mean, I'm sure the English people would justify that. I think it's just this other thing, and I just don't.
You don't like the Queen?
Oh, I like the Queen. Matter of fact, I think she's a good woman. I think if you look at her, it's fascinating, and I'm interested by the monarchy. I don't think that I have an interest in it. I step back and I say, 2022, are we really doing kings and queens now in democratic societies? That's pretty fucking weird, man. That's weird. I get it in Muslim societies. They rule that way.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
Sure.
It's not for me to decide.
Yeah.
But we have a democratic society over there like we have here.
Is it truly a democratic society over there, though?
A representative democracy, I don't know. They're elected. They elect their people. So I guess there's some form of representative democracy there. but they still have a king and queen. They have a monarchy paid for by the tax dollars of the public, which drives me nuts. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I get it, man. Some things just don't.
I
make
just
sense
want
in
to,
this world.
want to understand. I don't understand, but it's pomp and circumstance and tradition, and God bless them, and hopefully she lives another 10 years. As long as she's healthy. But
yeah,
that's it, man.
It's a good one as always, man.
This is great.
Fun.
This is great.
Fun.
I'm enjoying this. So
These are great.
this is. I appreciate you giving me the time.
Listen, man. Always.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Do it
All
again.
Right. You got it. Friends, we're out.